You ever let someone in and then spend the next few days looking for a reason to push them back out? Not because they did anything wrong, not because you don't care about them, but because something inside of you said, this is getting too close. If you know that feeling, this conversation is for you. This is Coffee Talk with Paul, and tonight we're going to talk about something that most people won't admit that they do. Pushing people away. Not out of cruelty, not out of selfishness, but it's something much deeper than that. So, let me describe something, and I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. Someone comes into your life, could be a friend, could be someone you're dating, could even be that coworker who starts to feel like more than just a coworker. At first, it's fine. You can handle it because there's enough distance that you feel safe. But then something shifts. They start checking in on you. They remember things you told them. They show up when you didn't ask them to. They want to know how you're really doing, and not just the surface answer. And instead of feeling good about that, you start to feel uncomfortable. You start pulling back, responding slower, finding reasons to cancel plans, telling yourself you're just busy, telling yourself you just need space. And maybe you do need space, but if you're honest, it's not really about space, is it? It's about distance, controlled distance. Because as long as there's enough distance between you and that person, they can't hurt you. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So here's what I want you to understand before anything else. If you push people away when they get too close, that's not a character flaw, and that's not you being difficult. It's not you being broken, and it's not that something is wrong with you or that there's something wrong with who you are as a person. That survival response is something that was built brick by brick by every experience in your life where getting close to someone cost you something. Think about it. When you were young, maybe very young, you learned something about people, and you learned it the hard way. Not from a book, not from a conversation, but from experience. You learned that people who are supposed to protect you, sometimes they don't. You learned that the people closest to you can hurt you the most. And you learned that opening up gives people ammunition. And your system, your mind, your nervous system, every part of you that's designed to keep you alive took notes. It said, okay, we're not doing that again. We're going to stay alert. We're going to stay guarded. We're going to let people close enough that we don't seem cold. but not so close that they can't reach anything that matters. And for a long time, that kept you safe. The problem is, it also kept you alone. Okay, I am going to be honest with you about something. I've ended friendships, good friendships, not because anything went wrong, but because they started to feel too real. Someone would start to genuinely care about me. They'd start to see past the version of me I put out there for the world. And instead of leaning into that, I would find a reason to create distance. Sometimes it was subtle, and sometimes it wasn't subtle at all. I've been in relationships, real ones, with people who genuinely cared about me, and the moment things got serious, the moment they started to actually need me, or I started actually to need them, something in me would literally just shut down. Not because I didn't care, but caring at that point felt dangerous. Needing someone felt dangerous. Because needing someone means trusting them. And trusting someone means giving them the ability to hurt you. And I already knew what it felt like to be hurt by someone I trusted. And I learned that at 12 years old. So, when I was 12, a close family friend, not a family member, but a friend, began sexually abusing me. It went on for years. I didn't tell anyone, not because I didn't want help, but because there were threats made to my family, and I loved my family more than I loved my own safety. So I learned to carry things alone. I learned to protect people by keeping them at a distance. I learned that the closer someone got to me, the more danger there was. For them, for me, and for everyone. I carried that for years, almost decades. And even after I confronted him at 17, even after I finally told my parents at 25, and even after I came to understand that none of it was my fault, the walls stayed up. Because the walls weren't built for him specifically, they were built for everyone. And that's how trauma works. It doesn't just protect you from the person who hurt you, it protects you from everyone, and it doesn't know the difference. So let me tell you how this actually shows up in real life, because I want you to recognize it when you see it in yourself, okay? Say you meet someone good, someone safe, and your first instinct isn't relief, it's suspicion. You start looking for what's wrong with them. What's the angle? What are they going to want from you eventually? Because in your experience, people who seem too good usually have something coming. Or you test them. Maybe not consciously, but you pull back a little just to see if they chase. You go quiet to see if they'll reach out. You push just a little bit to see if they'll leave. And sometimes they do leave. And your brain says, see, I knew it. I knew they would go. But sometimes they don't leave. And that's almost harder to deal with because now you have to figure out what to do with someone who actually stays. You might find yourself more comfortable with people who are unavailable, people who are emotionally distant themselves, people who will never really ask anything deep from you because they're not going there either. It's safer that way. Nobody gets too close, nobody gets hurt, and nobody leaves. But nobody really connects either. And underneath all of that control and all of those walls and all of that managed distance, there is a part of you that is emotionally exhausted. A part of you that is tired of being the strong one, tired of being the self-contained one, and tired of being the one who doesn't need anything from anybody at any time. That part of you just wants to be known by someone and not have it cost you everything. All right, so here's the part I have to be straight with you about. The walls that protected you have also imprisoned you. I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm saying that because I've lived it. And because nobody ever said it to me plainly enough for me to actually hear it. The same walls that kept the wrong people out kept the right people out too. But here's what nobody tells you about isolation disguised as independence. It compounds. The longer you go without letting anyone in, the harder it gets. Because now it's not about protecting yourself from being hurt. It's about not knowing how to do it differently anymore. You forget what it feels like to actually trust someone. You forget what it feels like to let someone carry something with you. You forget that connection was ever supposed to feel safe. And I want to say something to you directly. If you've pushed good people away, people who deserved better, people who actually cared about you, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who was trying to survive with the tools you had. But at some point, and I can't tell you when that point is for you, you have to decide whether you want to keep surviving or whether you want to start living. And those are not the same thing. So, I don't have a neat ending for this one because this is not a neat topic. And I'm not going to insult you by pretending it has a simple solution, because it doesn't. What I will tell you is this: awareness is the beginning, not the finish line. It's the beginning. The fact that you can sit here and recognize yourself in what I've been saying, that matters. That is not nothing. So, in the next episode, we're going to talk about trust. What it looks like after it's been broken, what rebuilding it actually requires, and why you can't do it the way most people tell you to. But for tonight, I just want to sit with one question for you. Who have you pushed away that you wish you hadn't? You don't have to answer that out loud. You don't have to answer it in the comments. I don't want that. Just sit with it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time right here on Coffee Talk with Paul.